let's trace the path of food through the body really generally, right? Food will go from the mouth to the esophagus, to the stomach, to the small intestine, and then the large intestine. In this video, I'm going to talk about what's happening in the mouth. We can call it the mouth, or we can call it the oral cavity. Ultimately, it's the same thing. Basic functions of the mouth include holding the food inside the oral cavity so that mastication can occur. And basically, that's the job of the cheeks and lips. So think about what if you're trying to chew without cheeks, right? The food would just fall out the sides, right? So we need cheeks and lips to keep the food in the mouth while mastication or chewing occurs. Of course, the tongue is also located in the oral cavity. There are some noticeable structures of the tongue, namely those little things, those little bumps on the surface of the tongue. You've probably had a swollen one before, where you had that little swollen thing sticking out on the top of your tongue, and you probably said you had a swollen taste bud. Those actually aren't taste buds. Those are called papillae. The taste buds are actually located on the sides of the papillae. Another noticeable feature of the tongue is something called the lingual frenulum. And the lingual frenulum is a piece of tissue that connects the bottom of the tongue to the inferior surface of the oral cavity. Some people will get this pierced. Some people, when they're born, it's way too big and they need to have it cut so that they can properly feed. There's lots of different functions for the tongue, such as placing food between the teeth for proper mastication, swallowing or deglutition. It's involved with our taste sensations. It's also involved with speech. So there's a lot of different functions here. The superior surface of the oral cavity is called the palate. The anterior portion is called the hard palate, and the posterior portion is called the soft palate. Hanging from the back of the soft palate is a piece of tissue called the uvula that will become important in the process of deglutition. Basically, when you swallow, the uvula goes up and prevents food from going up into your nose. Another important feature in the oral cavity is, of course, teeth. And the main function of teeth is to break down food through mastication. Teeth are kind of cool. There's a lot of different things that I like about teeth, but one of the things I find amazing is that your teeth actually develop inside of your bones. Teeth are essentially almost a type of bone. We don't call them bones, but they develop inside of bones, and they're very similar to bones, right? So your teeth develop inside of your mandibular and maxillary bones, and then your teeth have to migrate into the oral cavity. Teeth have certain features to them, and we're not going to go into a lot of detail on the anatomy of a tooth, but I want to talk a little bit about enamel. So enamel is what we find on the outer surface of the tooth. Enamel is the hardest substance produced by the human body. As a matter of fact, it is one of the hardest substances naturally on Earth. So it's very, very, very hard. But despite this, we can get holes in our enamel, which we call cavities. The technical name, though, are dental caries. So dental caries are cavities. These are actually caused by bacteria. So we have all sorts of bacteria living inside of our oral cavity, and they eat what we eat. And when we eat a lot of sugar, they eat a lot of sugar, right? So when the bacteria are consuming food, they produce waste. And the waste that they produce is slightly acidic, and that acid can eat away at the enamel, causing cavities. Humans have two sets of teeth. The first set is called our baby teeth or milk teeth or deciduous teeth. So deciduous trees are trees where the leaves fall off. Deciduous teeth are the teeth that fall out. And those deciduous teeth are replaced by our adult teeth. So we have 32 typically permanent teeth, right? And there's different types of teeth. In the front we have our 8 incisors, so 4 on top, 4 on bottom. And these are for ripping and tearing, along with the teeth just next to them, which are the cuspids. So you might call these canine teeth. So the incisors and the cuspids are for ripping and tearing, which is usually what has to occur when we eat meats, but sometimes it occurs when we eat bread from Panera too. Behind those are where we find our flat surfaced teeth that are used for grinding, mostly grinding plant products, which are the bicuspids and the molars. So we use our bicuspids and molars to grind down usually plant products, right? What's kind of interesting is when we look at the human teeth, we can tell that we're omnivores. You can tell that we eat both meat and plant products. Also associated with the oral cavity are salivary glands. There are 3 types of salivary glands. The submandibular glands, as the name suggests, these are located below the mandible. The parotid glands, which are very large glands that are located more in the cheek region, almost close to your eyes. And then the sublingual glands. Lingual means tongue for language, so the sublingual glands are located deep to the tongue. We're not going to talk about the differences in their secretions, so we're just going to talk about saliva in general. So all of these glands produce saliva. Saliva is mostly water. It also contains some mucus, and it also contains some enzymes for digestion. One example is salivary amylase, which is an enzyme that helps us to break down carbohydrates. Lysozyme is also present in saliva, and this is actually an enzyme that helps to kill bacteria that come in with our food. There's a lot of other stuff in there too, but those are the basics.